AI is the gold mine for innovation, but it is a landmine for privacy as well.
India's, the DPDP Act is soon to be in action. And according to you, what will be the real challenges that the healthcare sector will be facing in terms of complying to it?
The challenge for the healthcare organization is like, firstly, there is no distinction between personal information and special category. Healthcare data is critical, right? From CT scan machines, MRI machines, right? The patient undergoes scans. Now, this is a very critical data because somebody is going through scans. And if something is diagnosed, obviously there are reports and everything. It can expose the sensitive medical records. Most of the breaches also happen because organizations don't have any clarity, like where their data is spread, how to deal with that data. There was a breach, okay, the breach in a very big chain of hotels. When a survey was done and it was found out that now the customers avoided staying at those chain of hotels following this breach. Now this is a major setback because your money is gone. Okay, that's fine, but your reputation is gone. So it takes a lot, to rebuild that trust with your customers.
Small to medium-sized players also in healthcare today, and the challenge is they don't have a so-called dedicated, data privacy teams with them. In this scenario, how do they go ahead and, comply with the DPDP Act without spending a good amount of money and, putting a huge budget, dedicated budget to building building a data privacy team, so to speak?
The good part about compliance is that it is not only the big budgets, but the smart prioritization which organizations should focus on. If you start by building a basic data inventory, for example, so like, what data we are collecting, what patient data is being collected, where it is being stored, how it is being, who can access it, how it is being disposed of. So this entire exercise will give you a very, very nice idea about, that how the data is being managed. And literally it will solve most of your problem. This mapping is like 80% of the battle because it gives you a clarity of where is your data.
AI is being leveraged quite a lot by the healthcare sector as such. But AI is also viewed as a double-edged sword.
They need thousands of patient records. Obviously, they have the model will study those records, the patterns, and everything it will study, right? And then our models will get trained. Now, companies, they need data. They need this patient records to train their models. So obviously, they'll go to any healthcare organization and they'll request that information, right? Now, instead of coding that raw data, which has every patient identifier, the companies, because if they'll do that, like a lot of these patient records, they have patient's name, patient's age, in India, for example, Aadhaar is like Aadhaar of everything here.
Right.
So everything, if it is like a huge risk. A breach can expose PHI, it can expose the sensitive medical records, federated learning. It's also, federated AI is also a like decentralized approach. So basically what happens here is like instead of sending patient data to the AI, you send AI to the data. So basically in this method, you train your models across like multiple devices and organizations without moving the raw data. It's like,
a bit on that. It sounds very interesting, like how you move AI to the data.
So basically the algorithm is traveling to the hospital servers. It is learning the patterns locally, okay? And then only the mathematical insights will come out. If no patient data, no patient records will leave the hospital premises. I read this case that they knew a high school girl was pregnant before her parents did. And it was probably basis the purchase history, the AI inferred the pregnancy. AI can actually infer those sensitive details which were never shared out in public or with your closed ones. So this is horrifying. This is horrendous. I mean, this is something which actually scares me, and this is something which is like, which needs to be taken care of.
Patients can build the foundation of trust. I'm sure the trust is the foundation of all the is a core principle actually to go ahead for any brand, for any firm. So, Ankita, while we spoke about DPDP and privacy by design,
I think it is like treating privacy as a core ingredient of your product or a service. It's like, baking privacy into the systems from start rather than sprinkling it like a seasoning on the top. But the companies which had GDPR in mind, they survived. Which had, not only GDPR, like other regulations also, they are surviving. Trust is something which is the foundation of, I think it's the cornerstone of any business, any organization. So if your customers trust you, if your partners trust you, then only you can flourish in that business.
Hello everyone, welcome to Cyber Nights. And on today's episode, we are thrilled to welcome Ms. Ankita Kaur, a data privacy and information security expert with GE Healthcare. With over 12 years of experience spanning governance, compliance, and risk management, Ankita has been at the forefront of driving the best practices in privacy across industries globally. Also contributed thought leadership pieces to the International Association of Privacy Professionals, that is IAPP. And today we are privileged to have her with us to discuss the much awaited DPDP Act and the evolving role of AI in healthcare. Most importantly, to discuss how organizations can build the foundation of trust while staying compliant and innovative. Hello, Ankita. Thank you so much for being on Cyber Nights today. It's a pleasure to have you. And we're really looking forward to a very insightful and a meaty discussion today, especially on with the DPDPA, so slowly to be in action. So we are looking for a lot of inputs from you to understand and how to navigate, especially for the healthcare sector. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kavita, for inviting me. And yes, DPDPA is in action. I mean, the things are going on and the rules will be out anytime soon. So I'm looking forward for this interaction.
I'm sure there'll be a lot of work for you in the court itself. My first question, Ankita, will be India's, the DPDP Act is soon to be in action. And according to you, what will be the real challenges that the healthcare sector will be facing in terms of complying to it?
Before talking about DPDPA, I would like to, highlight something about GDPR. And why I'm talking about GDPR, because it's a very much talked regulation. It's not a yardstick, I would say, but from last couple of years, because of the widespread or word of mouth, basically, GDPR came into existence. And it clearly distinguishes between personal data, special categories of personal data. And when we say special categories, it includes your health information, I mean, medical information, biometric, political views, and all. Right, and those special categories of personal data apply stricter processing conditions to the data. Now, US has HIPAA, right, which is focused on healthcare. Even India started working on a similar act, which was called DISHA, but it never saw the light of the day. It's still in the draft form. Now, coming back to your question, when now DPDP is coming into force, it will be coming into force. The challenge for the healthcare organization is firstly, there is no distinction between personal information and special category. No term like special categories of personal data in DPDPA. However, the government can actually label any entity as significant data fiduciary, SDF. And this distinguish can be made, maybe classifications may be made on the basis the volume of data which companies are handling, the importance of data, if it is what type of data it would be. So a significant data fiduciary is a special classification, and they might have an enhanced obligations. When I say enhanced obligations, because they would be catering to the sensitive data, the impact of their data processing activities would be more. So I guess it is Section 10 of DPDPA, where central government has this authority to designate data fiduciaries basis on, like I said, the scale, sensitivity, volume of data. They can designate them as special, significant data fiduciary. And then if any entity is designated as STF, then these organizations must comply with a stricter requirement. When I say stricter requirement, it is that, they have to conduct, suppose, DPIs, data protection impact assessment. They have to undergo independent audits, and they have to appoint data protection officers. And there might be the restrictions on cross-border transfer of certain data. I mean, we are just, whatever the rule says, I'm just going by that. But I mean, the act says I'm going by that. But the rules will come, and they will also give us a very clearer insight of what additionally needs to be done. But yes, I think the SDFs need to undergo all of this. Apart from that, DPDPA focuses mostly on consent, a clear, specific, and revocable consent for data processing. So these are some of the areas where, the healthcare organization need to understand, they need to work upon. Especially, we have low literacy settings in India, right? So when many patients, they lack digital literacy, we are often, especially after COVID, a rise in consultation, telemedicine has increased. So the companies must also understand that, whatever consent forms they are using, it because the act also mandates it has to
Right.
be clear, it has to be multilingual, easy to manage and understand. Otherwise, the consent becomes a formal, like, tick box exercise or something. So
Right.
and also DPDP demands the technical safeguards also to ensure the security of data. We should have the encryption, the access controls, and the breach reporting mechanisms. So yes, all the healthcare organizations should take, steps. They have to understand all of these requirements and work accordingly. Well, healthcare sector, obviously, whatever data we are handling, it is all critical. Like from the
Absolutely. Right.
DICOM images, like, from CT scan machines, MRI machines, right? The patient undergoes scans. Now, this is a
Right.
very critical data because somebody is going through scans, and if something is diagnosed, obviously there are reports and everything. Even we have like many software. So not
Right.
only we actually are the product manufacturers, so we have services also, we have software also, right? So
Right.
whenever the scans take place, I'll give you a very simple example. The scans take place, okay? Now a scan has to be signed by a doctor. So some countries have this regulation that only authorized signatory, a doctor can only, sign and stamp them.
Right.
So
Right.
the software has also some mechanism that only those, who are authorized, they can only log into the software. Then they'll be, they can digitally sign, and that for digital signing also there are special, software or any mechanisms there. So because healthcare data is critical, right? So
Absolutely.
we ensure that, all the healthcare organizations, they ensure, not only healthcare manufacturers, the hospitals, clinics, and
Right.
everywhere it has, even in a basic laboratory where you conduct your blood reports, right? So everywhere this thing, I mean, like, everybody has to be aware that, they are handling precious data. Simple lab test reports also, conclude a lot of diagnosis for a patient.
Right. Right.
So that's why the organizations need to be very, very particular about this thing.
Thanks for this clarification and for this explanation. Because yes, people are, because India is a healthcare hub as well, and a healthcare destination, and we are seeing a huge growth and in the sector. So definitely, data is becoming much more critical. So sure, we need these kind of acts in place. Now, my next question is, Ankita, that yeah, we understand, and there are a lot of small to medium sized players also in healthcare today, and the challenge is they don't have a so-called dedicated data privacy teams with them. In this scenario, how do they go ahead and comply with the DPDP Act without spending a good amount of money and putting a huge dedicated budget to building a data privacy team, so to speak?
Well, that's actually a very practical question because it happens, like the companies which have organizations which have global presence. Obviously, they have huge budgets and they are like globally present, so they have to have respective teams, respective stakeholders to cater to these requirements. Now, this is a ground reality that small to medium organizations may not have a big budgets. They may not afford a chief privacy officer or probably a team of, data privacy consultants,
Right.
or maybe big, maybe IT budget. However, the good part about compliance is that uh, it is not only the big budgets, but the smart prioritization, which organizations should focus on.
Mm-hmm.
So when I say smart prioritization, first of all, like I said, that you can leverage the existing staff, because you might have heard about NAB. NAB is National Accreditation Board for Hospitals and Healthcare. So basically, it's an apex body in India. For they provide the accreditation and certification to the healthcare, healthcare organizations like hospitals are there, clinics, laboratories, even I think Ayushman, which is like the
Ayushman Bharat.
Ayurvedic
Yes.
Ayushman Ayush institutes and all.
Yes.
So basically, NAB has, like I said, it's a certification body, right? So to undergo the certifications to get accredited to a NAB, there are some data protection requirements also. So your clinics can all leverage their NAB trained staff to double as privacy officers. I mean,
Okay.
I'm not sure like how much requirements are there in NAB and how much they overlap with DPDP and other acts. But yes, of course, those people have some idea. You can train them and then they can double as privacy officers. Similarly, there is an 80-20 rule in management, right?
Mm-hmm.
So basically, 80% of the results come from the 20% of the efforts, right? So literally, in case of data privacy also, if you start by building a basic data inventory, for example, so
Right.
like, what data we are collecting, what patient data is being collected, where it is being stored, how it is being, who can access it, how it is being disposed of. So this entire exercise will give you a very, very nice idea about, that how the data is being managed. And literally it will solve most of your problem. This mapping is like 80% of the battle, because it
Mm-hmm.
gives you a clarity of where is your data. Most of the breaches also happen because organizations don't have any clarity, like where their data is spread, how to deal with that data. So you perform this. Also, I would say that basic policies. Obviously, you should have your privacy policy handy. There should be privacy notices, consent mechanisms, because they are the basic things, right? So you can do this. Also, the organizations can leverage the third party. Also, I mean, compliance is a thing like where you can help. You can get help from other parties. You can have third parties. There are many third parties which will help you establish a governance structure, and then you can run on its own. So
Okay.
I think the organizations can do these basic steps, establish policies, establish some basic technical controls. A simple control will be, like disabling the USB drive. The data shouldn't go out of the hospital,
Right.
and encrypting data, storing it in encryption. The data in transit should be, uh, I mean, it should be stored. Encrypted properly. So these are some basic ways where the organizations can smartly prioritize.
So if you have to put a stepwise approach, for example, like just 2 or 3 steps, it will be like, for very small and medium-sized healthcare, companies, it can be, one is they should look at data, where exactly is the data going. It shouldn't be going out of the organization. Second is the encryption part. They should ensure the data is encrypted. And also they can look at a third party vendor or, for support. And they can also look at, as you mentioned, from the ministry side, the NABH and other bodies, and see how they can leverage their data experts and utilize it for their, for internally building a framework, strong framework within the organization.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just a little correction. When I
Please.
say that data shouldn't, it's not like data shouldn't go out. Data can go out, of course. For example, there are many healthcare, manufacturing companies
Right.
which may require this data for building their AI models, for
Yes.
training their AI models. But you should de-identify or anonymize this data. So that's the one thing which care should be taken on. Right now, the data sharing mechanisms also, there are a lot of protective ways to transfer data. Like there are many protocols, many companies actually they have their own ways. If there are inbound folders, outbound folders, and only the people who have access to the invitation link, they only can click and upload data on that folder or download files from that folder. So it is very access based mechanism. There are multi-factor authentication mechanisms. So everything needs to be taken care of when the data is leaving the hospital premises or things like that. Yeah.
That's it. So fair enough. I think this would be very helpful for for the companies looking at, because yeah, definitely, I'm sure they all are. There will be a lot of there will be a lot of anxiousness, at the same time a lot of confusion as well, that how to kind of cope up with this new DPDP Act. Now, coming to my next question, Ankita, we understand, because we also read you have been an avid writer as well, and you have been writing for IAPP, and we have been following your content and your articles. And in one of your recent articles, you mentioned that India already has DPDP Act. Will have to, there is an addition. However, India already has some acts before, like we have a Right to Information Act, RTI, and also there are a lot of existing RBI regulations. In this scenario, or how will the healthcare sector, or overall any sector, largely, navigate through these overlaps? Because probably, I'm sure there'll be an overlap between these acts in terms when we'll talk about data privacy per se. So, what is your approach, and what exactly should be the solution or the way to look at it in terms of best way to navigate through that?
Yeah. Well, firstly, I would want to say that, though we got a full-fledged Data Privacy Act, DPDP, very late. However, India was not lagging behind in this area. We had our IT Act, and from time to time, many modifications were made to the Act, and then some data privacy guidelines were also added to it. So also we have this RBI guidelines and all. So we had sectoral, guidelines already in place. TRI is there. Now the point of contention is, for example, we have some acts which may seem to be, a little bit. I would say that there would be some overlaps, but are some acts which are in place. For example, right to information. There is a transparency versus privacy dilemma. Because in RTI, what happens? Like right to information, it encourages that, okay, whatever is the government held information, that needs to be, send out in public for transparency. But DPDP, on the other hand, it will restrict the disclosure. It restricts the disclosure because if personal information is, sent out without consent, it would restrict. So I think obviously we have to think optimally. The rules are yet to come out, right? So I think they would address these challenges. However, we can make a trade-off in the situation. Releasing the data which is aggregated or anonymized can help in this situation. Similarly, for example, in RBI mandates KYC, know your customer. Right. So when you do KYC, even it is so annoying. Like when you even go for taking your gas connection, also you have to do your KYC. You have to submit your Aadhaar details. Right. Nowadays, I think from 1st July or something, you cannot book your Tatkal ticket if your Aadhaar authentication is not done with your IRCTC account. Mm-hmm. So a lot of data is being collected, for these purposes. Now we don't have any idea of how our data is safeguarded. Our Aadhaar number is there. Mostly our Aadhaar is like everywhere you go, they'll ask for your Aadhaar. Right. So so they are retaining this data, and obviously the reason they say is to prevent the financial fraud, to prevent any kind of issues further. However, DPDP, it pushes for data minimization because collect only what is necessary and erase when the purpose is over. So yeah, probably I am expecting that, the sectors and DPDP rules, maybe when the rules come out, this guidance will be clear that what needs to be, which thing needs to take precedence. It is about, what takes precedence in particular area. Maybe it can be like use case to use case when it will be a financial record, probably RBI guidances may take precedence. So we have to just wait and watch for the rules. But I would say that DPDPA should not be seen as a wall, but it is a layer on the top of existing obligations. So the clear cut idea we'll get once the rules are out, but we have to make sure that we are not sacrificing the transparency. We are not, sacrificing the financial integrity. In the meantime, taking into cognizance that we are also not breaching the privacy of an individual.
Absolutely. Very well said. Ankita, my next question, or I would like to be a little curious to understand how how is DPDP similar to GDPR, if I may so in say so in the layman's language? Is it? I don't know. Is
So, see, GDPR, DPDPA, the basis of all these acts is same, right? It
right,
is the same thing. I mean, when you cook, I'll give a very layman example. When
right,
you cook,
right,
you have to put oil. I mean, of course, the Indian cuisine is not like making something.
right. Yes,
So the basic ingredients are same. Your spices are same. Your salt is same. Probably the main ingredient can be a little here and there. However,
true.
everywhere it focuses on seeing the purpose limitation,
Hmm.
having the consent, proper consent in place. People should be well informed. It should be explicit consent. I mean, you just cannot be, randomly saying things to people and then changing. It should be, people should get the right to reverse or revoke their consent. So most of the things are similar. It is like, almost 80-90% the things are similar. However, like a basic difference in terminologies, data subject is used there, data principle is used here. Most of the things are almost the same. We have the concept of consent manager here, which is not in GDPR, right? I said in the beginning, GDPR distinguishes between personal information and special category of personal information.
Right, right.
DPDPA does not make such distinction. So obviously there are something there. I think in GDPR there is like whitelisting. Here in DPDPA, probably in future, there may be blacklisting. I think something like that
Sure.
is there.
Right, right.
I'm not pretty sure, but yeah, this is one of the things which would be there.
And Ankita, one more doubt, or one all cybersecurity or data protection is also looked upon as a not an enemy, so to speak, but as a a blockage or something which kind of blocks innovation or business growth as such. So my next question, even compliance. So could this kind of compliance, stifle innovation, or will it help to build trust and trigger innovation?
Well, that's the paradox basically,
Yeah.
because on one side, the compliance feels like brakes on innovation. I mean, a lot of people would say, even I, in my early career, also faced this challenge that operation teams were not very happy about, us putting compliance restrictions on them, and they were like, these are extra costs, extra resources, extra efforts, and even our productivity is, it's impacting our productivity. But on the other hand, if you see from past decade, if I may not go that far, but from past decade, strong compliances actually they are the fuel for wider adoption, better innovation. I would say privacy by design is a classic example of that. I would not name the company, but there was a breach. Okay, the breach in a very big chain of hotels, and it involved, because obviously when you go, we check in into a hotel, you share a lot of personal information there, right?
Right.
So that breach involved leakage of personal data of millions of their customers. Okay, now. Uh, the company obviously it faced fines. It had obviously it had it was all over in the news and it faced fines. But the major setback was when a survey was done and it was found out that now the customers avoided staying at uh, those chain of hotels following this breach. Now this is the major setback because uh, your money is gone, Okay, that's fine. But your
Right.
reputation is gone, so it takes a lot, to rebuild that trust with your customers.
Hmm.
So I would say that there are examples like such many examples where companies went bankrupt because they couldn't build compliance. They got flagged, they couldn't pivot. But the companies which had GDPR in mind, they survived. Which had not only GDPR, like other regulations
Right.
also,
Right.
they are
Hmm.
surviving.
Hmm.
So privacy first becomes a competitive thing in the shorter term. I mean, in shorter term, it can be seen as an overwhelming exercise, but later on, the companies actually brand itself on like basis this. For example, there are many companies which use, for example, there is a thing called differential privacy, right? So some companies, they brand itself that we use differential privacy.
Hmm.
What
That's
where
okay.
are they stand? Everything has been innovated, right? Now we are in the era of AI where a lot of innovation is being done on that base. So probably people would be more focused now on, okay, fine, this phone or this device or this product or service has a fancier AI model. They can actually give many features, but however, the customers are now getting very particular about their privacy. So they would also want to look at those companies, those products, those services which also respect their autonomy, which respect their data privacy. So obviously, it is not something like it will stifle the innovation. It actually will drive trust, adoption.
Absolutely. As you rightly pointed out, with the recent breaches which are happening, like even the JLR cyber attack, which again, even M&S, Marks and Spencer, and leading retail brands as well, definitely, as you rightly pointed out, it completely hurts their brand image and the reputation, and it takes hard to build it. I suppose it will, over a period of time, it's a culture that is to be built, that compliance, strong compliance is also part of your, reputation as such. So, well, Ankita, you also touched upon in your previous question, in the previous question when we were discussing innovation, and you touched upon privacy by design and how important it is. So, I would like you to elaborate a bit more on it and talk about it, how relevant and how important and critical it can be.
Privacy by design, when we say privacy by design, what it is exactly, I think it is like treating privacy as a core ingredient of your product or a service. It's like baking privacy into the systems from start rather than sprinkling it like a seasoning on the top of your dish. So basically what happens is that whilst we are designing any product, we are designing any service, we have to ensure that right from the beginning, we're taking care of the compliance, we're taking care of the privacy. So this privacy by design, like lot of organizations now, work on the seven foundational principles of privacy by design. So I'll give you a little, quick
Sure.
heads up about what are these principles. First principle is proactive and not reactive. Now, when I say proactive, not reactive, the name itself says that we have to be proactive. And all the compliance standards, they actually talk about, risk management. So is pointing towards, you are addressing the risks before they actually occur. For example, you conduct the DPIAs. The second principle here is privacy by default. In a very layman language, if I say, for example, you sign up for a social media account, right? So the basic privacy settings should always be active by default. It's not like you as a user has to put an extra effort. You have to probably go to settings, turn them on. No, they must be like turned on every time. That's privacy by default. Third is privacy embedded into design. Like I said, we are launching any product, any service, or maybe we are upscaling, upgrading any old system.
Right.
So we have to ensure that privacy is a core consideration from day one. ठीक है. It is not like, for example, you're building a site or something, and if user would come, for example, you have a contact us form, right, for marketing and everything. So if your user wants, a potential customer wants to get in touch, or
Right.
maybe if even if they submit their details, name, email address, phone numbers, there should be a privacy, a consent notice or a privacy disclaimer, terms of use, something where you explicitly tell user, because a lot of organizations they they take the details of the customer or the consumer, and then they put a disclaimer that if you check this box, if you give your consent, we'll also send you the marketing emails. We'll send you the emails about our other products. So
Mhm.
everything should be built in from day one. You just cannot take user is giving their details for one query, and you cannot just take
Right.
those details and leverage it for your marketing purposes.
True.
So then comes there is one more principle called full functionality, positive sum, not zero sum. So it's a common misconception, like we already discussed in one of our questions, that we have to trade off functionality for privacy. So this principle actually it is dispelling that myth. Basically, it is like we can have both at the same time. It is not like if you put privacy, then you have to compromise somewhere on the functionality. No, that is not true. Privacy strategy, a well thought of privacy strategy, will protect the data, and also it will enhance the security. So the functionality part is something which you don't have to trade off. Then there is one more, I think, principle which is which talks about end-to-end security. Exactly, and throughout the entire, data life cycle, from the moment information is captured till it is, stored, transmitted, transferred, displayed, and disposed of. Throughout this entire life cycle, basically, the end-to-end security of data must be ensured. Then there's a principle, visibility and transparency. Very important concepts in terms of privacy. Transparency is very important. Individuals should know, like you should know as a data subject, as a data principal, how your data is being collected, why it is being collected, what is being done with the data. So, for example, I spoke about like providing the clear privacy
Right.
notices to the users, to the data subjects, data principles. And then lastly, it would be respect for user privacy, and putting privacy first. It is thereby you're respecting your data principles, your stakeholders, because trust is something which is the foundation of, I think it's the cornerstone of any business, any organization. So if your customers trust you, if your partners trust you, then only you can flourish in that business. So it is like you have to respect for the user privacy. So these are the seven principles of privacy by design.
I'm sure the trust is the foundation of all the, is a core principle actually to go ahead for any brand, for any firm. Man, Ankita, while we spoke about DPDP and privacy by design, now I also want to touch upon, which you already touched upon in your, in one of our conversation, is artificial intelligence. Well, it has become a buzzword, and everybody is kind of leveraging it or using it, right from a kid to a senior organization employee. Now, my question is, AI is being leveraged as per the data or as per the reports that should suggest that AI is being leveraged quite a lot by the healthcare sector as such. But
Mhm.
also, again, AI is also viewed as a double-edged sword. So there is a positive and there is a negative. So how do you foresee it? Do you see AI to be, creating challenges, and because considering the huge sensitive amount of data it is using in terms of, and to leverage and come up with a very innovative solutions. So will it pose as a risk as such? Because we are kind of giving huge amount of data, which is very sensitive, or it will also be a, like it will also help us in triggering innovation, especially from the healthcare sector perspective.
Uh, okay. Again, I'll not get into very much technical. It's very simply, I'll simplify it for you, for example, or maybe for your viewers. So, firstly, nowadays, because obviously I am from an healthcare company background. So, what the company, healthcare manufacturing companies, what they are doing, they are building AI tools. Okay. So, when they are building, they are training their AI tools. What they are doing is to detect the early signs of any disease. For example, let's say it's cancer or fracture from anybody will go and get their X-ray done or CT scan done. So these AI models can predict, okay, what it is exactly. I mean, predict it beforehand. Now, how will the AI model predict? Obviously, we have to train it. Now, how can we train it? They need thousands of patient records. Obviously, they have the model will study those records, the patterns, and everything it will study,
Sure.
right? And then our models will get trained. Now, companies they need data. They need this patient records to train their models. So obviously, they'll go to any healthcare organization and they'll request that information, right? Now, instead of coding that raw data, which has every patient identifier, the companies, because if they'll do that, like a lot of these patient records, they have patient's name, patient's age, their in India, for example, Aadhaar is like Aadhaar of everything here,
Right.
right? So everything, if it is like a huge risk. A breach can expose PHI, it can expose the sensitive medical records, a high risk data per se, what we are seeing. So, same example terms, if I say AI is the gold mine for innovation, but it is a landmine for privacy as well, if not taken care of very seriously, right? Patients would not trust the hospitals. Like I said, the trust is very important. I told you the chain of
Very true.
hotels example, where
Mhm.
the patients, where regulators may impose fine, then you have to, there are fines. You have to like halt your business for some time. Uh, Take a cognizance of the entire situation, why the breach happened, put on stronger control. So all of this will happen. So, so in one way to innovate and keep like obviously to innovate and keep privacy also in mind, balance all these things. This is like a seesaw, so we have to balance. So yes, you can make use of a lot of technological innovations which are coming our way. For example, first is very simple thing is like the nowadays the companies have agreements with the hospitals where they agree upon sharing the data, but without the PII identifiers. All the identifiers are anonymized. So whatever data we get, for example, we get only DICOM images from the hospitals. They are not associated with any individual. So that way the data is being, shared. These are all agreements. Even
Mhm.
a lot of companies, what they do is like the hospitals, the clinics, the laboratories, whenever they share the data, they make sure this is anonymized. Also, the AI vendors, the healthcare organization who receive that data, they also ensure, they also run their checks and balances. They also check whether the data has any PI associated, because even they don't want to get fined. They don't want to get into trouble. If something is breached from there, it is a trouble for them also. So it's like both the parties take, the responsibility and ensure this. And then a newest trend is federated learning. It's also federated AI is also a like decentralized approach. So basically, what happens here is like instead of sending patient data to the AI, you send AI to the data. So basically, in this method, you train your models across like multiple devices and organizations without moving the raw data. It's like
Can you
a
elaborate
part.
a bit on that? It sounds very interesting, like where how you move AI to the data, like that's
So basically, the algorithm is traveling to the hospital servers. It is learning the patterns locally, okay, and then only the mathematical insights will come out. No patient data, no patient records will leave the hospital premises. That's also one way to secure, because sometimes what happens is even if you anonymize data, there can be a risk. Now the risk can be, for example, people, right? The users are also users also put on their details on social media. So if for example there is an anonymized suppose X-ray, okay, so
right.
it can be linked back to an individual if AI matches the uh, hospital admission times with the social media check-in, right? Because now the trend is that people go anywhere, they put on their images on social media, the check-in times. So you can actually, sort of get a hunch of what this data was, like whom it belonged to. So this approach is like federated AI. Like I said, it is like the method of training models basically, and instead like each participant trains the local model on their own data, the learned parameters, like I said, the mathematical insights will come out. Patient data will not leave the hospital server and their premises ever. So this is something, which is a very, this approach actually, preserves, secures your data. Then I also talked about, I think, I touched upon, I think, differential privacy, where also noise or a randomness is being added to the base for the randomness is added, controlled noise is added to the data. So before it is analyzed, so what happens here is, like, for example, you're running a survey. Let us suppose,
Right.
and I'm giving out my answers. You're giving out your answers. So you want researchers to sort of, go through your answers, go through your responses, but not uh, identifying you, that, oh, this person was the one who actually gave this answer. So here, the randomness or the noise is like added, and when it adds the randomness, it ensures that even if information goes out, it does not correlate to an
Right.
individual. It does not, point to an individual. No individual is pinpointed. I believe that Apple uses this technique, and obviously, when Apple is using it, they can use it for obviously branding themselves also. So these are, I mean, some of the ways where you can balance the AI. You can use it for innovating, but you can also ensure that the privacy is there. It is like balancing both the things.
Absolutely. And these are really, really, I think they can really help in terms of managing privacy and kind of firming up the privacy line. And do you think in India, are we following it? In which country? You mentioned with the federal one and the federated one. So are all the countries how increasingly is it being followed, if I may ask? But
The AI, the rise of AI, if we see, I mean, from last couple of years, obviously the AI is on rise, right? We have GPT, I think 4.1, it has gone to 5, right? So
right.
everything is being innovated. I believe in next 5 years we'll be like, AI would be very, I mean, the innovation and everything will go up. Like, I have my Alexa device at home, and it is like a basic device. Now the new ones which are being, work in progress, the new devices, they have a lot of capabilities. So you cannot even imagine. You see the new phones which are coming up, or anywhere you go, any field is, now touched upon. For example, I'll tell you, I went to one of my relatives' place, and they had a smart chimney which used to, from your hand gestures, understand whether you want to turn it on, turn it off, or probably, increase the fan speed, decrease the fan speed. There are smart switches coming up. So you can sit at your home and you can turn on the smart switch, and then your entire this thing goes on. So I would say that a lot of companies in India are they have started working on federated learning. Differential privacy has been there from a couple of years. A lot of companies are working on this. Like I quoted the example of Apple. So those companies who are actually working on AI, they would sooner or later, they would, need to venture into this. They need to probably get into these options, because obviously otherwise they won't sustain, right? Everybody is going in the start race of AI, but those who will sustain would be people who will keep themselves hydrated. When
Right.
we go out in sun, we would drink a lot of water to keep
Yes.
ourselves
True.
hydrated.
True.
Similarly, AI domain, in AI realm, I would say, you have to keep yourself hydrated. You have to keep yourself knowledgeable about, like, what
Right.
regulations are coming up, what breaches are happening, what risks are there, and then accordingly you have to, like, figure out options for innovation, as well as keeping privacy in mind. You have to figure out the options where you can actually safeguard your data but
Right.
not compromise on innovation.
Absolutely. So very fine balance and very beautifully said that yeah, it has to be, you have to keep yourself hydrated in the age of AI in order to survive and sustain. That's very well said. And I love the line you said that data is a gold mine and you're on the landmine. So it's very yeah. You have to walk the tightrope. So that's amazing. Ankita, I also would like to understand, in your experience, in your vast experience that you have been specializing in healthcare and especially data privacy. Any scenario, any incident that you would like to highlight, which is very critical and which can be relevant for the audience, especially in the healthcare, when they're looking at DPDP?
Well, I say it's not only DPDP. See, what happens is DPDP has like come into picture from last 2 years and it's yet not enforced, right? Uh, I'll give you some examples which actually fascinated me, and these are not examples from recent times, right? Because
Right.
recent times there are many breaches happening, many things happening. But when I probably started my career, I think there was a case where um, I think Target, right,
Yes.
which is a so Target, which is a supermarket and all, so
Right.
I read this case that they knew a high school girl was pregnant before her parents did. And it was probably basis the purchase history, the AI inferred the pregnancy. So this was very fascinating for me. So basically, uh, this is a risk that those sensitive details. Now, imagine you're giving out your data, okay? You're
Right.
giving to some company, to some data controller or data fiduciary. That's okay. I mean, you're giving out that data, and tomorrow, of course, if that controller is not maintaining the data properly and there's some breach happens, you are at least aware, okay, I gave this much of information. But just imagine the details which you have not shared with anybody, not with your parents, and suddenly those details come out. I mean, some random store infers from your purchasing habits that okay, this might be the case, and they started sending her emails, about about baby products, saddles, everything, and then parents noticed and they were like, "Why are you sending?" And then they got to know about this. So this is automatic inferences. AI can actually infer those sensitive details which were never shared out with in
Absolutely.
public or with your closed ones. So this is horrifying. This is horrendous. I mean, this is something which actually scares me, and this is something which is like which
Very
needs to be taken
worrisome.
care of.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yes. And yeah, that's really absolutely very risky as well, as especially with the younger generation that we have. If somebody is studying our patterns so well and they are predicting, and it completely kind of breaches your privacy as such, if we look at it. Well, Ankita, over the course of our discussion, and even it's always the case there, privacy or cybersecurity, as of now, or compliance is never looked upon as a from the return of investment point, right? Return on investment, because it's always like a support thing, and it kind of perceived by the business folks is like, yeah, it kind of hampers the growth, and yeah. But my question to you is, what if the small and even the large firms start having measure the ROI on the quality or of investing in data privacy? Can we look at a world with that kind of measure, and how effective it will be?
I mean, I'm just laughing because yes, many a times we're looked upon enablers, a support function, right? We just get confined to that.
Right.
However, I would say ROI or return on investment in privacy is big. Now, again, a very very layman example, a single breach in any organization, not only in healthcare, anywhere, hospitality industry, any industry, aviation, anything, it can cost organization a lot, because like it is not only penalty, it is the lawsuits,
Right.
it is the downtime, right, it is the reputational loss. Now from an ROI lens, just look at it. If a privacy program prevents some breaches, maybe let's calculate that way, that in 1 year, for example, or in 5 years, if some certain breaches are safeguarded, they are prevented, it's already 10x return in the investment, because your breach, how much time you will need again to because when you have a reputational loss, you again have to market yourself, you again have to work on rebranding yourself, establishing yourself as a trust for the organization. So it's very imperative that you understand that even if you are spending some amount and you're saying, okay, it's not directly a customer facing role and it's support function enabler, But safeguarding your data is also a thing which actually saves you a lot in terms of your money. Also, the privacy program, like I said in the beginning, you should start by having a data inventory. Okay, the mapping of the data, like where from it is coming and all, understanding and manage, because this helps in the entire life cycle management of the data. Now, the heart of privacy is data minimization. Also, like collect what is necessary, what is educate, not less, not neither less nor more. So this exercise also helps us in lot in terms of storage, for example, right? You are getting rid of unnecessary data which you have collected, or for example, the retention period is over and you are, archiving the data or purging that data. So what will happen is like you are saving on your storage. Nowadays, every organization is leveraging on-prem is very less. Now everyone is leveraging the enterprise clouds or the
Right.
this thing. So you are saving on your cloud storage also. You're saving on the backup cost also, right? And the e-discovery in litigation. So that means also companies are saving so much when they perform these, exercises. The privacy program demands those exercises, and when you are so basically, what is happening? You're also saving your cost on those grounds also.
Right.
And like I said, privacy is also turning a selling point. I already quoted the example of many companies using federated AI or differential privacy. So it is also like, you are doing branding worth of millions and billions when you are flagging yourself as a privacy first tech company and something like that. So this all actually will, give you a lot of, yeah, I would say 5x, 10x of the investment from an ROI frame.
Absolutely, very beautifully said that you should put it in a branding as well, like privacy first firm, and then people might understand actually, and they will give importance to it, and then the brands themselves will understand the relevance of it. And Ankita, you touched upon a very important point that I was discussing with one of our guests before also, that do we need a data diet? Actually, if you look at it, because even in the financial sector, like I'm just giving because I was interviewing them, this issue happened that we collect a lot of data. Even when I was talking to Miss Debbie Reynolds, she also mentioned that, yeah, the data, we collect a lot of data. And as you rightly said, that why do we need so much of data? There has to be, there has to be like a purpose to it. That why are we saving so much of data? Do you think with these rules and regulations being in place, we'll be able to kind of look at, minimizing data, collecting the relevant data, and letting go of the data? Because there are conditions and in certain organizations where they're supposed to keep a data for a certain span of time, the customer data, but it happens that it stays in the legacy systems, and it doesn't, and the technology keeps on changing. The data is still there and nobody touches upon it, but it is always like a time bomb. It can always, sitting and ticking, and it can be it can be misused and it can be breached. So what is your take? How do you think, this entire cycle, or this kind of behavioral pattern that we have, can change to a great extent with getting all these, not only DPTA, many other acts and rules that we have in place?
Well, Kavita, I would say, like I said, data minimization is one of the core principles of GDPR also,
Mm.
right? And I would say that, the lesser you have, I mean, the less amount of data or the relevant data you have, actually you are safeguarded because you have to take care of, a very less amount of data. First thing is that privacy, first of all, is not a static discipline, right? It's an ever changing field. It evolves with technology, with customer expectation, and even with the geopolitical shifts, right? So, the demand to, or maybe the requirement to safeguard data is very important. Also, the data retention timelines, they also differ. Like, for example, in some countries, like the HR data, for example, HR employee data, even if an employee leaves an organization, there is a duration for which, during that duration, you have to, necessarily maintain that data, right? Then
Mhm.
you have some contractual agreements with your customers,
Right.
where I have seen, like, with my customers also, we used to have these clauses in the agreements that, uh, 3 years after the termination of contract, you have to till those 3 years, you have to keep the data. So the customer can come back to you anytime they can request the data. Okay, and then there are some laws of the land, some local
Right.
regulation also, which mandate you to, for example, for taxing purposes, for
Yes.
audit purposes, and
Mm-hmm.
all. Now you have to keep your records. Now the organizations have to be disciplined enough to ensure that okay, by the time this data is there in our systems, number one, is it encrypted? Is it only accessible to the authorized people, not everybody randomly? And those accesses are also, they need to be reconciled. That is person in the same role? Is he working in the same role? Does he have access? Is it because of his, is it role-based access? Because many times what happens is that internal movements are there in the organization, right? People no longer work in the
Yes.
same role,
Yes.
and
But
still
still they have the
they
access.
have accesses.
Correct.
Sometimes when contractors leave the organization, they have. So companies have to be very disciplined about this, that if they are keeping data, obviously because of some maybe contractual obligations or maybe land of law or anything like that, if they are keeping that data, they have to ensure that once that retention period is over, the data is taken care of. It is
Right.
purged, archived, or whatever they want to do. And by the time it is there, like you said, it's a ticking time bomb. Nobody touches it.
Yes.
Only the experts, experts of the bomb, they have only the access to that
Right.
chest, basically. So yes, we have. It's not like bringing everything on our platter and then damaging your appetite and this thing. You have to ensure that whatever data you have, it is. And also, I said data minimization does not say that you don't actually capture anything which is also required. It is like
Right.
educate. Educate means neither less nor more. You should not have
Exactly.
something which is actually required and you are not capturing those details. But yeah, this sounds stupid. If any you sign up for any e-commerce site and then they are asking you're filling the sign up form and they are asking your blood group details. It's
Right.
not required, right? But also it is like your name or probably your the other things which they ask.
Mandatory one. Yes. Like it's
Maybe they
right.
are required to create your profile or something. But ensuring that there is a discipline that for the duration the data is, if you have an active data, keep it separately. If you don't have any active data, the historical data, keep it separate. Make sure that there are strict access controls. Make sure that there's strict, I would say, guardrails to safeguard that data.
Absolutely. So, Ankita, one I'm very curious to understand since you have been there in India for per se, we have so many healthcare organizations, and we are sharing information at the drop of a hat, if I may so say so, right? Like if you go to even a clinic, they even right from insurance details to everything they're taking. How easy will it be for them to kind of comply with it once the DPDP Act comes into picture? Because I think we sit on heaps of data, and so yeah, so what will be the deadline, and do you think they'll be able to meet it and kind of comply it? Or yes, sorry, I know it's a very difficult question, but I just wanted to understand.
Well, see, the thing is that, obviously the rules will come out, then there will be data protection board, which
Right.
will be handling a lot of things in this case. I mean, the compliance issue and everything.
Mm.
So, when you have set up these epic bodies, specifically for these reasons, the organizations become actually very, they become attentive. Nowadays, we are receiving random calls. We keep on receiving random calls
Yes,
from many mutual funds and then many banks who are
banks, yes, for
marketing their
loans, financial
credit
institution.
cards and
Right,
loans and everything,
right.
financial institutions. So now, when this data protection board will be established, obviously there is no deadline or a timeline, I would say,
Mm-hmm.
because grapevine is that the rules will be out in November. Again, we don't know because last time, I think in September or October, it was like everywhere there was a rumor that the rules will be out
Yes,
in a day or
yes,
two, right?
true.
So we don't have any fixed timeline or a deadline. I mean, at least I am not aware of something. But yes, when a data protection board will come into existence, when the stricter fines, the act will be enforced. So
Mm-hmm.
organizations would automatically, they have to, like in Europe, what happened? GDPR 2016, 2018 enforcement. And when it was enforced, what happened? The organizations itself, they ensured that they are actually doing every bit to safeguard the data.
Right.
Now, our DPDP has also one thing, that it is only applicable to the digital, data. However, in many, for example, hospitals, I'll say,
Right.
any
Right.
government hospital or any hospital setup, you go smaller or rural facilities when you
Right.
go, they're still using the paper-based record, right? They are
Yes.
still, the manual processes are going on, outdated EHR systems are there. Now,
Right.
DPDP does not apply to such records, but how
Correct.
about protecting that data is again a question, right?
Right.
I mean, I heard a case where long back, not sure like how many years back, but there was
Mhm.
a rural setting where people were giving out their Aadhaar card details and all for some money and some this thing.
Great, Ankita. I think we have kind of covered almost everything, which is relevant and important from data perspective, especially from DPDP in healthcare to, to artificial intelligence and the various ways we can kind of control it. Now, my one more question, Ankita, have been a data privacy expert, and there are a lot of students and a lot of people today who are looking forward to, build a career in data privacy. So, what advice will you give it to a student who's there in a, doing their graduation or being in engineering in, in the colleges? How can they become a successful data expert, privacy expert?
So, Kavita, basically, I would say those who aspire to come into this field, right? A lot of people, for example, I'll say, think that, oh, okay, only lawyers, they can,
Right.
the people who have a great legal background, they can come and they can join this field and they can work in this field. Let me dispel that myth. It's not true. Of course, there are a lot of legal terminologies, and but this role is a blend of both, I would say, where technology meets law, because you need to understand.
Hmm.
Obviously, you need to understand your master service agreements. You need to understand a lot of the language of acts, basically.
Right.
However, nowadays GPT has made, AI again. AI has made everything easy. So in
Right.
case you are not sure on certain things, because when I joined this field, there was not much knowledge about these areas.
Mhm.
There were not many resources available. But nowadays, internet is the hub of all these resources. So I would say that people, also some people would say, okay, do some certifications, do certified privacy professional certifications
Mhm.
from recognized institutes. But I would say, rather than going for uh, uh, jumping into and getting trophy certificates, it's always important you have, first of all, you self study about the things. So
Right.
uh, you should first of all, I mean, even if you don't have any background in law or in other fields, it's not very mandatory. First of all, go through all the key regulations. That would be my first mantra.
Mhm.
Go through the
Mhm.
key regulations, GDPR, CCPA, HIPAA, DPDP, understand them well, understand cyber security. Yeah, so like I said, that the basic and the key laws, because most of the laws, obviously, all countries are coming up with their own privacy regulations, but almost all the laws, the core ingredient, like I said, is the same. So, the laws like GDPR, HIPAA, CCPA, DPDPA, the future aspirants in this field, they should actually go through these laws. They should understand the basics of cybersecurity, because it is very important, very imperative to understand, like, what are the basic concepts in cybersecurity, how you can secure your data. You
Mhm.
cannot, just understand privacy, but then you cannot leave security out of it. So
Right.
they'll go hand in hand, right? So you understand basic cybersecurity, encryption, threat modeling, access management, and things like. So cybersecurity basics they should understand, threat modeling, access management, because the privacy and security, they go hand in hand. Also, I would advise the future aspirants, if they get any internship opportunities, take it, because you are going through lot of theoretical things, but if you get any internship opportunities, you'll get an hands-on experience on all those things. So that will also, because there are many organizations which actually give you like 2 3 months internship and all. So if you get these small opportunities, then you can do. You also go and read, when you get in and like browse any public sites, you read their privacy policies, like what are the contents they are uh, covering and all. It will also give you an idea that how to draft a privacy policy, right? You can also take like projects where you can conduct mock PIAs, you can create privacy policies, you can do data flow mapping. When you are confident enough with all these things, then you can obviously also you should join or follow, IAPP and IST, Future of Privacy firms. So such firms you can also
Right.
join those privacy communities, LinkedIn groups, get in touch with people who are already doing in this field, get their advice also. You can also attend the conferences, privacy conferences. A lot of free of cost conferences are there. And then there are a lot of free of cost courses also, which you can undergo. I mean, I'm talking about the students who are just fresh pass out from the college. You can undergo all these things, and then you can choose your career path. Like, you have to become a privacy engineer, you have to get into cyber security, you have to be a privacy analyst or a consultant. So what direction or domain you want to get into? You want to get into governance, you want to get into compliance. So basis these things actually will give you an idea. And then once you choose your field, then you can do all the paid certifications in those relevant domains. Then it makes sense also. You have some theoretical knowledge only, and then you go for certifications. Rather, you have some practical touch also, and then you discuss with people. I think that would be my tip to all the future aspirants.
And that's great actually, because yeah, normally what happens is people just go ahead and join a certification, and they think they want to be, until unless they literally gauge and understand what exactly they're getting into. So I think this is very practical and the right way to look at it. I'm sure it will help lots of students who are watching the show as well. Thank you so much, Ankita. It was indeed a great discussion, and we just thoroughly I enjoyed the discussion. We didn't even realize how long it took because it was very gripping and engaging, and especially when we covered AI, which is the buzzword today, especially in healthcare, as well as DPDP, much awaited act, and we are waiting to watch how it will be, how it will shape up in terms of how people will implement and what will be the feedback. And we're looking forward to any further discussions once DPDP Act is in action, and we would love to hear your views again in terms, and kind of dissect and see how it exactly, how is it, how people are coping with it, and how exactly is it helping. So thank you so much, Ankita, once again for giving your time and coming for this show. Thank you. Thanks a lot. We're looking forward to
Thank
much
you,
more
Kavita.
meaty discussions. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. The feeling is mutual. Even I enjoyed talking to you and sharing my views. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.